Welcome back to the Restaurant Growth Show podcast. Today, we are joined by a career restaurant guy. After more than 20 years in hospitality, from sous chef to corporate vice president of operations, Jason has compiled all of his wisdom and lessons learned into his new book, Every Leader Needs Followers, all about transforming restaurant managers into hospitality leaders. Out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Mr. Jason E. Brooks. Jason, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today, man?
Oh man, I'm doing amazing. It's been a great week, and I can't believe that you had me back on here twice. So I thank you, Jose, for convincing Gordon to bring me back on this show. So thank you so much.
It was a heavy lift. There was some payola involved. There
Got
was
it done.
bribery.
Got it done.
But we got
Just
it done.
Get it done. Thank you.
all jokes aside, my idea to have Jason back on a regular basis, mind you. Jason, look, you've been on quite the podcast circuit. How's the promotions going? How's all of the book touring going?
Dude, it's a rabbit hole. You just don't, the outside person of the podcast industry doesn't understand this world. It's like some rabbit came, hit me on the head, shoved me down this hole. Next thing you know, I'm in like Wonderland. It is definitely, it is a whole nother planet. I mean, I didn't know that it was like this. So I've been on 12 different features, and I have 13 more lined up. And I think what they call it within the book world is the digital book tour, the
Right.
book tour via podcast. And so, but what's been amazing? First, what's been amazing? Getting to meet people just like you two. I mean, and that is honest. It is sincere to be able to get down to talk to content and learn stuff, just researching, just getting to know people, topics, subjects, different views, different angles. That's been just so rewarding. And then, of course, getting great platforms to talk about this book, because it is a lot of work. I love what's been put into it. I am hoping that people see past my insanity and say, yes, this actually is something great. But it's just been an amazing past few months of getting through this podcast world.
Well, I can say firsthand that there is method to your madness, and there's no madness involved. This is actually a very structured, well written, easy to follow, step by step process of being a better leader. And at no point in my recent memory has there been more of a need for a book like this, for leadership structure and methodology to re-engage the average restaurant employee with their manager, with their leader. I think the timing is fantastic. I think there's no better voice than Jason Brooks to bring this to the forefront. And now you're doing the legwork. I'm sure you found writing the book to be laborious. Now you got to go and do all the PR. So hopefully it's not too painful, but I feel exactly the same way, Jason. There's no better way to learn than to have conversations. And we live in an age where we can do this from you're across North America. We're on the West Coast of Canada, so, and here we are, I feel like you're right next to us. So it's amazing to have you on, and I'm glad that you're back on the show. Jose,
Thank you.
Jose, you've been quiet for a little while. What are you thinking?
It's great to see you, first of all. And I think that it makes me proud to see you as an author and doing that thing, because it does take a lot of work, and at the same time it brings a lot of blessings in the process, because of meeting people, because of you get sometimes feedback about the impact you've had on others as you go along. I mean, I was in the industry for a while, for quite a few years, a long time ago, still, and also technology at the same time, but it is very satisfactory. I mean, I was more like the publisher that was supporting authors, and in many things, actually. In one of those, I met Donald Trump.
That is for another podcast, but I've heard that story. I can't wait. Yes, I don't know if we even have enough time.
No comment. No hurry.
But Jose did indeed meet Donald Trump. Was that 25 years ago?
It's gonna be 20 years soon. Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
I kind of want to see like a reenactment of like young Jose and a younger Donald Trump and what that was like.
More like 15 years or so. A little
Regardless,
bit more than anyway. Yeah, it's definitely for a story for another time. But book
Well,
Explorer
I'm
can't
gonna
even
hold you to
remember
it.
the year.
I'm gonna hold you to it. Okay, excellent.
we all want that story. Trust me. That's a Jose report story to be told. Jason, I want to talk about leadership keys in hospitality. In your extensive experience and research for your book, Every Leader Needs Followers, what are the most crucial keys for leadership specifically in the restaurant industry?
It's going to vary. I'm first started with that. It's going to vary because every restaurant business is at a different stage that it's at. But when you try to boil it down, when you try to thicken that sauce and get it down to the basic flavors, I think it is going to be three things. First thing, accountability. Now, what I mean by that is that most people view accountability as something of when I have to let someone go because they've done X 3 times, I'm now holding them accountable. And that's wrong. Accountability is actually how we are consistently letting someone know from day zero all the way through to forever what their role is, what their job looks like on a successful side in that role, how to help them get there, and ways to help them reach that point. That is accountability. Most businesses feel whenever they say accountability that it's something negative. And I think a leadership key is keeping accountability on the positive side from day zero, from being very clear and concise about what the roles are and why those roles are so important in making the business successful. Second leadership key in hospitality: shared beliefs, shared values, shared goals, or culture. Culture is one of the absolute keys. And that, when you look at what is the definition of culture, I've said it before, but Chip Close does a wonderful job of breaking down what culture is. People like us do things like this. And that is a shared belief, shared value, shared goal of whatever the day is or the system is or the process is. Everyone understands this is what we do. So that's accountability and then culture. The third key, I believe, in hospitality is being adaptable. And that's one thing that I think within our industry, we struggle with the most. We really struggle with knowing how to adapt and to not be the last ones to do something, not be the last ones to implement something. We need to stop being the last ones and start being the first, because as I always say, we're one of the rare industries to where we can see someone 3 times a day, and we have to be more in front than behind when we have that many touch points with individuals.
Jason, do you think that, speaking to the adaptability aspect in the restaurant industry, do you think that traditionally speaking, that is the heaviest lift, that is the most difficult part, because traditionally the restaurant industry lagging? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that we can vary, but I think that there is varying degrees of being accountable. There's varying degrees of building culture, and we can do that. But the adaptability piece is something that we tend to look at within this industry as a P&L, and we tend to try to squeeze as much as possible, and we want the immediate return like it's a TikTok video. Like, I need to have this back within 20 seconds. And being adaptable for us, we have to learn how to, I'm not going to tell someone to take more risk with their investment, but we definitely see that we need to be in front of things more so that we can be more profitable. And that's where we struggle with, is that we have a fear because we believe that we run on such a thin margin of wanting to adapt to do something new.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. Now, from your perspective as a founder of Hospivation, what are some common mistakes you've seen new managers make in the hospitality sector, and how can they avoid them?
I'd go with, let's do 3 on this one too. First one, trying to go at it alone. I think that that is the number one mistake that, of course, new managers tend to run into nearly every single time. It's either that they want to try to show it off, they want to show that they have value. They may not know how to teach things. I think we talked about this before, but going at it alone. Second thing, not knowing how to paint the big picture. And what I mean by that is that we are, again, holding things back from our team members, from our other managers, because we may not know how to teach those things, or we may not know how to show what the big picture is for everyone. All these businesses every year, whether when you look out your window, they all have a business plan and they redo it nearly every single year. And what happens is they put it on this pretty parchment paper in an expensive frame, put it on a wall, and then they never get to getting it to the customer facing person. The only people that know it is the owners, some executives, and maybe a senior manager. Getting that information, getting that big picture down to everyone is one of the mistakes that the common manager tends to brush aside because they're so focused on the fire. So we talked about going at it alone, not painting the big picture. I think that the other thing that are common mistakes for managers is treating the customer as a problem instead of a solution. And the bad thing is this thing has increased during COVID. During COVID, it's like walking in, they want to run you off. They want to see you waiting there to order and turn their backs, counting to 45 seconds, because they know that's the magic number that you're going to turn around and then not place your order. You know, I mean, it's just crazy how managers have shifted right now, more recently, to treating the customer as a problem versus a solution.
I want to go back to leadership communicating their business vision and goals. Do you think that and not sharing it with middle management all the way down to, you know, the dishwasher, do you think that is by nature really difficult to do, because in the restaurant industry everything is measured down to the second, and everyone just flat out doesn't have the time to have these candid, you know, real conversations about this is what we're trying to do, this is what we're planning for? Do you think that is, you know, inevitable to not be able to have those conversations?
I absolutely disagree. I do not think that is the reason why. I'll go through a little story. Okay, so my son plays sports. Okay, he's a 16-year-old sophomore that's in high school, and he's been playing sports since he's been 7 years old. And at the age of 7, you can play AAU basketball. Now, in AAU, it's someone's parent teaching you just to run down the court. You can travel. You will not get a whistle. You can smack arms. You will not get a foul. Just chuck the ball up. Hopefully, it goes in because they're 7. All right. Now, once you get to middle school, it's now actually getting coached on some basic basketball skills and drills. These kids are getting coached 9 out of 12 months of the year. You can take it on to high school, get the same thing, take it to college, get more coaching, and then take it to the NBA or the WNBA. At this point, players getting paid millions and 10 millions of dollars per year, and they still have someone screaming at them on the court, who to cover, all that good stuff, and still bringing everyone over of what the next play is. That's the key for me right there. They're still bringing everyone over on what the next play is. And these people have been playing this sport since the age of 7, some of them, and getting paid millions of dollars. So for us to say we don't have time to have someone getting paid $15 per hour that's probably only been working together for the last 6 or 9 months, that we don't have time to tell them what the big picture is, that I think is wrong, even whenever we factor in seconds.
It essentially it's poor planning, right? Like
Yes.
I'm very focused on schedules and timing and allowing enough time for certain things. Jose can attest to that. In the restaurant industry, I mean, I totally agree with you. I'm curious, is it so ingrained in the culture that everything is just in time? Things need to be by the second, and then all of a sudden we need to create some time to have these conversations, and you're saying no, hell no, that's not the way it should be.
It just makes me wonder, because you do go to some restaurants and you do have some an experience of culture that you can see they are all behind something. They are going towards something. I just find it fascinating that you point that out, that if you don't have a north or a horizon that you're going to, it must feel really boring and just, when it could be much more fun and accountability in the way to hold each other like a team, like a
Yep.
real team.
Yes.
So
And that's the environment where people grow. I think that at times we don't feel like we have enough time to bring our teams through the big picture, through the understanding, and having everyone, even the dishwasher, know what the next goal is, because we don't create that on day zero. I think that the heavy lift is whenever managers have some, because we have amazing managers and leaders out there. We do. We really do. But we have some environments, and we've visited those locations to where there's so much chaos, they don't know where to start from in order to create that. And that's where that gap is. That's where it's so hard for them to paint the big picture, because it's almost like, well, how are you going to tell me this now? And you've let me be like this over the last year or 2 years or 2 weeks. So it's having the coaching, having someone there to help you start that day one and don't give up, to ensure that you start creating that environment. Even if you're the one that helped create it, you still have to put your foot down and say, I'm gonna start building this now. And there's also technology that can help us do that. Now, that also takes investment, yes, but I believe that the return on that investment of helping to paint that picture, you can go low tech and just have a cork board and put up all of the big picture with the 3 big items that your brand, that your location is working on. And of those 3 big items, there's 3 mini items that the dishwasher does to help hit that goal, 3 mini items that the host does, that the cashier does, that the grill cook does. And having that low tech board, or go high tech and get you the iPad, get you the one that is routed to your coolers, that knows the temps, that knows all that stuff to help. So when it comes down to food safety and checklist and when to prep and what's going on with schedule and when to start cutting, all of that good stuff. But we have the information to be able to keep the big picture in front of our teams. The question is, are we making time to do it, or are we finding more excuses to go chase more fires?
The challenge there too, as well, for that manager is when those bad habits have already been in place, and to about face and undo those bad habits, it's a challenge for sure. I want to switch gears a little bit, Jason, and I want to talk about the book. Now, writing your book, Every Leader Needs Followers, that must have been a reflective journey for you. How has this influenced or changed your approaches to leadership and coaching?
When I started writing this book, I looked back at different ways that because I am no perfect manager, nor leader, nor coach. I absolutely see where, and still work on now, on how to be better. But when I look back at the things I chose to do and chose to focus on, I saw where I stayed focused in one mindset too much, because the book, Every Leader Needs Followers, helps you to create this mindset of understanding the differences between managing, leading, and coaching, and how to use those 3 different mindsets in order to make you better at what you do, make your team better, and build something around you to where you don't have to lead by yourself. And so I found where in my past, yes, I stayed a lot in the managing mindset around leading, and never visited coaching for many years. But that's because our brain naturally doesn't like change. It's actually very comfortable doing nothing, or doing the same thing repeatedly. But when you do start focusing in on what type of mindset am I in? Am I managing? And I know that sounds corny, but it really is. For this situation, is it better if I take a management approach, a leadership approach, or a coaching approach for this individual or this challenge? When you can focus and change your mind, now your brain becomes more comfortable because you are training it to pick up on those cues within conversations, pick up on those cues within the P&L, within the environment, within the industry, in order for you to step forward and change your thought process for that moment to help make better choices. So that's one thing that the book did for me, was look back and say, where was I actually really stuck through within different mindsets? Of course, what could I have done differently? Who knows? Because I wouldn't be where I am at now. But I now understand. I thought through certain things back then.
I love the thinking of being the context thing, right? Like, who am I being that become or bring or create a world around me, and it enrolls people around you? Something fascinating. So now, so we talked about that resistance of technology adopting and all sorts of things in the industry. How do you see artificial intelligence reshaping the management of people in the hospitality industry?
I think it's going to have the most significant impact on training and development. For example, the rollout of the Apple Vision Pro. I can see that within our hospitality industry being used for training, both back of house and front, even for hotels. I can see how with a hotel, it's being used in order to help guests figure out what room they want on 4th of July, because they can turn around and see the view from the room or how the room is laid out. I see it being used for catering company. What if a catering company for a engagement party, for a large party, can actually have their customers put on the Apple Vision Pro and see the layout of the food, see the layout of the silverware, of the tables, of the different food choices. Food waste. I know food waste, when it comes down to AI and technology, is going to be a lot better, because it's going to have a much better element on what to prep according to things that are going on around our business that we may not think about, because there's too many times that we say, oh, it's Tuesday. I always prep this on Tuesday. And then next thing you know, we toss out all kinds of food, creating waste and also killing profits. But the training aspect, I can see it in the back of house that we are taking or the Vision Pro to help build out dishes, to help walk through certain chemicals, to help walk through how to clean pieces of equipment, different things that puts you right there seeing what's going on, or in the front, how to properly quote a wait. How many times have you walked into a restaurant, asked to wait, the host says, oh, it'll be like hour and a half. And then you're like, well, I'm stuck, so I'll just wait here. 15 minutes later, oh, yes, your table's ready. Like, what the hell? I thought you said, I mean, yes, it's good, but where does your math come from? But there's going to be lots of way that AI helps with not just the people management side, but also the sales building side, to help reduce waste, to help increase profits. It's going to do wonders. But again, we still have to try not to be the last ones to the table.
Yeah, I love that comment about, I can really see Apple Vision, or the virtual use of AI in training. Because I remember stepping into a commercial kitchen for the first time. That is intimidating. There's a lot happening around you. There's food prep. There's waitresses going back and forth with dishes and trays. And, there's machines working, and there's steam coming at you, and there's fire over here. If you were to train a young prep cook or dishwasher and put them virtually in that situation before it actually happened, I think that's a great training process. And if it's not being developed, I think we need to get on that, Jose. Let's create some training
on it. Yes.
Jason, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up what's happening in the media right now surrounded around dynamic pricing. I'm sure you've come across it. We've we obviously talk about it here quite a bit with the Wendy's debacle, with the PR sort of nightmare that they're going through. What's your take on that whole situation?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that question.
All right.
That is one I do have to steer clear from.
Okay. All right. That's all right. We'll take that offline because I definitely want to hear your opinion in regards to that. But I appreciate that answer. I did hear one of your appearances most recently on which podcast was that?
Susan Berry, Top Floor podcast.
Correct. So we were talking about this before we were recording, but tell me about Boo Boo Sugar. What's that all about? Tell me about Boo Boo Sugar.
Okay. So first, Top Floor podcast, Susan Berry. She is a very highly regarded hotel expert within the podcast world. She brings on lots of executives. I think she's up to season 150, but she brings this element of you're walking into an elevator at a hotel, going to the top floor and taking a view of the industry from the top floor. It has the music, the whole nine. Then getting towards the end, you're then riding the elevator down to the back dock. And on the back dock, you're giving your back dock story. So she asked, Jason, what's one of your back dock stories? And I'm like, okay, well, back when I was a sous chef at the Hilltop House, a 100-year-old fine dining establishment in downtown Fayetteville, and I invested in a new set of chef knives, Wusthof, very sharp. It set me back $400 for 4 knives. I had new chef coats. I just thought I was the man. So I'm sitting there cutting calamari. We all know what calamari is. And as I'm cutting calamari, I look up and I'm still cutting. And I cut straight through 2 fingertips, cut them right on off. I'm like, oh, this is not good. So my station happened to be right by the hand sink. I run to the hand sink. My head chef Rowe, brings over a ramekin with sugar. And he says, put your finger in this. And I'm like, hell no, that's going to burn. So Chef Rowe's like, no, put your finger in this. So I take it from out the water. I shove my finger in the sugar and it actually did not burn. I'm like, oh, snap. So, but did you know that sugar is actually a natural glue and cleaner for wounds? The sucrose from the sugar actually stops the bleeding and it cleans the wound as well. So back in the day, whenever you got a boo-boo, remember whenever I said, oh, mommy, I have a boo-boo. And then mommy said, oh, you have a boo-boo here. Let me give you some sugar. So did you know that in kitchens that chefs would actually use sugar to help stop the bleeding of wounds? And even warriors way back in the day would actually carry sugar on in their med kits for wounds and put sugar on their wounds to help stop the bleeding and clean it. Now, of course, you have to change it quite frequently. So when I cut my finger, I put my finger in the sugar. I kept it there for 30 seconds, rinsed it for a full minute. But after about 8 minutes, kid you not, both fingers stopped bleeding. Of course, I had to go back over, clean my station, sanitize it, do my knives, all that good stuff. But lesson learned, and that's where that episode came from with the title Boo Boo Sugar.
That's a fantastic story. With all the old-timey war shows and movies that I watched, they never brought up sugar to address the wound.
That's because they don't know that, man. They don't know this.
That's true. That is some deep knowledge. So for anyone who's suffering an injury in the kitchen, reach for the sugar.
Yep.
That's right. My grandmother had something like that every time. If you, as a kid, you fall and for some reason, I guess we would end up with like the wounds in the lips and stuff with the cousins and stuff. I have many memories of she would be like giving us a tomato and a bunch of sugar and then a tomato on top to go.
Tomato sugar sandwich. All right.
It worked.
See? Crazy.
That's wild.
Craziness.
It's wild. So, Jason, I'd love to hear more about, your goal to donate 30,000 to Giving Kitchen. Can you tell us all about what that's all about?
So we are nearing launch date of the book. Launch date for the book is March 18th. By the time this airs, it might be right there. But when I wrote the book, a few things. I didn't want it to be just my voice. Second thing, I didn't want it to be a memoir about Jason cutting off his fingers in the kitchen. I wanted it to be tactile. I also wanted it it to help give back to the industry that's given me so much. I'm 30 years into this industry. So I did some research. What are some nonprofits within the industry that is about the industry? I ran across Giving Kitchen. The Giving Kitchen actually started in 2012 with Jen and Ryan Heidinger. Ryan was diagnosed with some terminal cancer, and they were very well known within the Atlanta area, and they actually reached out for help, which is something that we don't usually do. People within the hospitality industry will shut down their business before they actually ask for help. But it was a point to where they actually did. That is very brave. They were looking to raise $12,000 to $15,000 to get through these treatments. With the community of the hospitality industry, they raised $300,000 in one day. That is crazy. That goes to show we have an industry that serves a lot of people. We do that first. And when we can ask for help, we can get help. They raised $300,000. That is what kicked off Giving Kitchen. It was a bunch of chefs that were in the area cooking food and raising food to help for this treatment. So from there, this blossomed. And now they've given over $8 million to food service workers in need. And it's everything from you don't have insurance to your child may be sick to you can't pay your mortgage. They have helped millions they've given out $8 million so far from 2013 to now. That is amazing. So I reached out to them and said, I want to give back. I want to give back $30,000 in 30 days. That's $1,000 per day for every year the industry has given me. So every book sold from March 18th to April 18th helps to raise $30,000 to give back to Giving Kitchen. They help food service workers in need. I help food service managers transform into hospitality leaders. So you're able to buy a book, give back, and get a tool for your manager all in one go.
That is a fantastic cause. Just checking out Giving Kitchen's website here, it says they've helped upwards of 20,000. They've got a little ticker on their homepage. They've helped almost 20,000 food service workers in some way, shape, or form. What a fantastic mission and goal. That's a great feel-good story, Jason. And we hope that we can help, promote this book and help you achieve your goals and donate that $30,000 to Giving Kitchen, excuse me. Jason, now's a chance to plug away. How can restaurateurs, how can operators, how can people in the restaurant industry get connected with you? What's your platform of choice? Plug away.
I love LinkedIn. You can always reach me on LinkedIn, Jason E. Brooks. My website, jasonebrooks.com. The book page is jasonebrooks.com/every leader. And I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn under 2 Lead and Succeed. That's the number 2, Lead and Succeed. But definitely LinkedIn is my platform of choice. I get to learn a lot about different things. I get to connect with some great people, and I get to post every now and then about what's going on. That's going to ramp up here shortly, especially with the book release. But I look forward to giving out any of this information at any time, because it's not just about me. It's something that every single person listening to this podcast knows. Like you said, Gordon, it's perfect timing. Right now is the time for us to help elevate our restaurant, hotel, hospitality, travel service managers and leaders, and help have that picture that the customer has of their expectation meet the operator's execution and make it real in the middle.
Fantastically said, Jason. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. That's all the time that we have for this episode. Jason, thank you so much, man. It's an inspiration listening to you speak, understanding and appreciating your leadership style, the journey that you've gone through, and just addressing the needs of the restaurant industry as it currently stands. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. That's all the time we have for this episode today. Until next week, say goodbye, Jose.
Goodbye.
Come on, man. It's supposed to say goodbye, Jose.
I know.
I love it.
Every week, it's a different delivery. I'm telling you, every single week.
Love it.
That's great. Jason, thank you so much, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks.
Looking
Awesome.
forward to